All right. I think we're live now. Does it show for you guys?
Yeah, I see it. It's right for me.
Yep.
All right.
Let me check on YouTube.
In that case, okay. Estelle, do you mind like posting the links? Places?
Yeah.
Posting the link places. Alright, so we are doing the live show for the Booktube Reading Buddies group for our July read, which was, can I show this? Let the Right One In. That does not show up. By John Ajvide Lindqvist. I don't know how to say his name still. So this was our group read for the month, and we just watched the movie right before this, the Swedish movie, and a couple of us, well, 3 of us watched the American remake yesterday, so we'll probably talk about the movies a little bit too. I am Nicole. I'm one of the moderators of Booktube Reading Buddies, and I'll let Estelle introduce herself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can see me, but so I'm Estelle at Odamenta, and I created the group Booktube Reading Buddies. Mindy?
I'm Mindy from Mindy Reads, and I participate a lot on the Booktube Reading Buddies.
Yes.
And hi, I'm Miranda. My channel is Bumbling Along, and I'm brand new to the Booktube Reading Buddies. Always forget the names.
Yes. And so this month our book was Let the Right One In, which the topic for picking our book was a disturbing book, and so this was the book that was selected. And I think we can all agree... Whoa, hold on, sorry. I have to mute a thing, and it's... Sorry. I turned on the Hangout in the background, and then it started playing, and it was really confusing me. So... What was I saying? So yes. Was this book disturbing? I think I would say yes.
I definitely agree that it was disturbing. I'm a big fan of horror, and there was a couple of things that made me cringe and literally feel sick in this book, which is rare for me. So it definitely falls under the category of disturbing.
Yeah, for me too, it was a disturbing pick. I would say, though, that it was more disturbing during the first half of the book for me than in the last half of the book. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. I was expecting just a little bit more craziness at the end of the book.
Yeah, at the beginning it seemed quite promising, and it really shocked you and grossed you out, and then it kind of lulled in the middle, and it picked up at the end. But yeah, like definitely in the beginning, I was pretty much, grossed out by a lot of the stuff that was going on.
Alright, so just to give a little bit of a synopsis, this is a book about, it's set in Sweden, and the author is Swedish and it's a translation, I guess that's worth mentioning. And it is about a little boy who is being bullied at school, a boy named Oscar, and he befriends a little girl who moves into his building, and it turns out she's a vampire, and you find that out pretty much right away. And it's about them and sort of characters surrounding them and the murders that happen in the small town as a result of there being a vampire. It's also probably worth mentioning, so a big difference that I noticed between the book and the movie is, so Ellie's father figure in the book is actually a pedophile, and so there's more of a plot line surrounding him in the book than there was in the movie. So you guys want to, let's start there and talk about Hakan and maybe how he's different in the book and the movie and how we felt about him in the book versus the movie.
Who wants to go first?
A little bit. I thought it really had a huge impact on the movie, of course, but also just because you get that, that you get the compare and the contrast between Hakan and Ellie's relationship, which is like completely dysfunctional, and they're just kind of using each other as a means to an end. And Oscar and Ellie's relationship, which is more tender and sweet and funny at times. And you just didn't get that that stark contrast in the movie. Cool. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
Yeah, I really missed the whole plot about Hakan in the movie. Like, I was really sad that they completely cut that out. from the movie, both of them actually. I was shocked by that because in the book that was actually the part that I liked the most. Not like it was fun, obviously, but it was maybe the most interesting part for me in the book because, like I said, I really liked the beginning. Like the first half was a lot more disturbing, and that's mostly because of Hakan, of his character and the things that were happening with him. And yeah, I really liked his character and his relationship with Ellie. I thought it was very unusual, for sure. It was for me, it was really something new and something interesting about the book. So once Hakan was a little bit out of the picture, like in the second half of the book, that's where I stopped to really care for the story. I was kind of missing that because it started to switch and it was focusing on other characters, and I just didn't really care for them like I cared for Hakan.
I'm the same way. I kind of felt more connected toward the Hakan storyline. It's definitely the most disturbing of the storylines, I thought, at least. And I kind of didn't like the fact that in the movies it was almost like he was the father character, and you almost felt bad for him in the movies, I thought. And that's completely the reaction, like opposite the reaction that I had in the book. He was just like this disgusting human being for me in the book. And I know that Estelle mentioned on Twitter that we were kind of disappointed of the way he looked in the movies. I imagined him to look a lot creepier and to not be sympathetic. Like, it just bothered me that it was not in the movie.
Yeah, me too.
No, I totally agree. It's a little bit weird in the movies how he's kind of a sympathetic character almost, when in the book he's like so.
I think that because they
terrible.
didn't take that part, the pedophilia part, I think they were kind of lost. They didn't really know what to do with his character, because once you take that out, it's kind of hard to include him in the story or to make him interesting. Like, they never explain like how they met. We saw that in the book, we have a little bit of that, but in the movie, we have nothing about them. So the whole time, especially in the remake, I thought it was easy to think that they were father and daughter, really.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't very clear.
Yeah, no, I think the backstory between we don't get a ton of backstory for Ellie and Hakan in the book, but I think what there was kind of necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember because it's been like almost a month since I finished reading it. How long has it been since Ellie and Hakan were together? Like, I know that he was already an adult, but does it say how long they had been together?
I kind of got the impression that it had been like a year or a couple of years, because in the book he implies that he's committed other murders before they get to the place where they are now, and that those murders could also be tracked back to him. So I assumed it was like a year to 2 years, but I don't think it's specifically said.
Okay. The reason I was asking is because while I was watching the movie, I was kind of thinking about the relationship between Ellie and Hakan, and how, if you really think about it, he is a pedophile, but if Oscar and Ellie's relationship escalates, and they're both kids now, but he's gonna age and she's not, so will he still be attracted to her when he is older? So essentially making him a pedophile because she's always gonna be 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't think about that, did you?
Well, I think the relationship will be problematic when he gets older. It's also going to be problematic like right away, because part of the value for Ellie of having Hakan was that he was an adult and could act like an adult and move around in society more or less freely, whereas a kid, as a child vampire, she's not going to have that freedom of movement to just go places and have people accept her being there at 2 in the morning. Like, if you saw a 12-year-old girl out on the street at 2 in the morning, you'd be concerned for her,
Mm-hmm. Which can work to her advantage, obviously, with the whatever his name is, Jokke. I cannot pronounce these Swedish names.
Jack. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I don't know.
So let's talk about the relationship between Ellie and Oscar, maybe. So what do you guys think about that?
You actually get to see Ellie be a child with Oscar, and I just thought they were really adorable. And one of the things that I missed from the film is that it kind of cut out the fun playfulness of their relationship. Like, we got funny moments with them at the sweet kiosk in the book, but we didn't get that in the film. It was a lot, it's much more serious. But I would have quite liked that. And, I liked seeing their relationship develop, and you do feel like whatever, even if he does become a future pedophile, you do feel like there is love there, and it's not sexual really, and it's just like a sweet, friendly, pure love.
Yeah, I really like those characters. I was a little bit worried before reading the book because I knew it was about kids, and that's something that I don't usually read. I usually don't like books centered around kids. But I really liked Oscar and Ellie. I really liked their relationship. I thought, especially their first scenes together, their dialogues, those were my favorite scenes. And I really rooted for them. I like them a lot. It kind of changed. Like I said, the second half of the book, I don't know exactly what it is, but it kind of lost me. And also with those two characters, with Ellie and Oscar, I didn't really like where their relationship was going. It just, I don't know.
Hey, Estelle, I lost your camera. Did anyone else lose her?
Yeah, it did go for a while. It's back now.
Okay.
Yeah, I still see her, so.
Okay, never mind.
Sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
anyways, for me.
I like them,
sorry,
but...
go ahead. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, go on. I'm done. I like them, but I didn't love them.
For me, this is going to be kind of weird for me to say because I do read a lot of horror and I do prefer darker characters. So when I went into the book in the first few chapters where Oscar was kind of, being a little creep and stabbing trees and, being kind of psychotic, I kind of really liked that. And when Ellie showed up, I'm like, well, this is going to be awesome. Oscar's kind of crazy and Ellie's a vampire. We're going to get up to some cool shenanigans. And then they kind of mellowed each other out in a way because they became more childlike together than they were separate, I guess. That's how I pictured it or felt about it anyway. And it kind of let me down a little bit because I was hoping that something a little darker or a little bit more horror story-like would happen because of the build-up at the beginning with the whole creepiness and everything.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you mentioned that they kind of mellowed each other out. I would have to agree with that, and that they kind of made each other act more like kids. I did think the author did a good job of having them act like kids, which is, I think, sometimes something that's a weakness in books that have child characters, is that they act like little adults. But I think he did a good job of having them act childlike. And I also, I don't know, I enjoyed their relationship. I think, okay, so this is kind of going back to Hakan a little bit. I think the use of Hakan as having Hakan be so evil that it made Ellie as a vampire look less evil was very effective, and that I was able to identify more with Ellie than I think I otherwise would have been able to, because she didn't come off as being like a completely evil vampire, despite the fact that she is definitely a monstrous character. She comes off as being relatively personable, and I think that has to do with the contrast with Hakan.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but there were also some scenes I remember, like when Oscar was listening to them arguing. Also, some of the scenes before Hakan had to leave, and they would talk, and like he was saying, like, I don't want to do this anymore, and he was kind of pushing him, like it's the only way for me to survive and things like that, and he was asking her, to love him and things like that, and she was really cold in those scenes. Like, of course, she wasn't acting like a kid because she's not a kid, but those scenes for me, she kind of felt evil because you could feel how she was manipulating him and how she was using him. So even though she's not your typical monster, I thought she was pretty dark in those scenes. Not so much with Oscar, of course, she was completely different, but with Hakan, she was really, I think she was the bigger monster of the two, for me.
She was definitely very opportunistic. Like, she took advantage of Hakan to the best of her abilities because she knew what he wanted and she could use that to her advantage to get what she wanted. So I agree there with Estelle.
I felt though that there was some sort of, mutual exchange. Like, he did get something out of their relationship.
Well, he wasn't getting that much. I would say.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't getting anything from her.
Well, I feel like he was getting a little bit, he was kind of getting, in a way, like, peace of mind, and he was able to sort of rationalize his own behavior. Like, in a way, I feel like, psychologically, I feel like she gave him a lot. She gave him a way to vent his feelings towards children without feeling like a horrible person about it. Because by being the object of his fixation, because Ellie is older than she looks, he didn't feel bad about fantasizing about her in the way that he felt bad about fantasizing about normal kids. So I feel like psychologically she really helped him. Although, on the other hand, she also made him kill people, so, that's not going to help you.
Something I was curious about, do you think Hakan saw Ellie as a girl or as a boy? Because the scenes, when he went to this place, to the restroom, and he asked for a little boy, and he seemed more focused on boys. So I was wondering, since Ellie is a special character, I was wondering if you think he saw her as a boy or as a girl.
A boy.
I think he fixated on her as a boy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because, you all believe that she's a girl, and so I was thinking, but why is he into boys? But he really likes, he's really into Ellie as well. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, in the end, it did.
But then, if he saw Ellie as a boy, I don't think he would have gotten so jealous of Oscar, of seeing them hanging out together, because he seemed to be jealous of their love relationship starting. It was not just a friendship. I think he saw that there was something going on between them. So I don't know. For me, it wasn't so obvious that he saw Ellie as a boy. I think. I don't know. I didn't see it that way.
I don't know. I felt like he was. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, there's that scene where Ellie comes out of the bathroom naked, and he asks her to turn around so that she's looking at her back instead, and I thought that was a bit weird, like what's going on there, but I don't know if that explains anything. I think
Hakan was more jealous just of their relationship in general, because Ellie was so cold to him. So I think he was just more jealous of Ellie's relationship with Oscar. Not necessarily in a sexual way, but just in a general way, because Ellie was actually nice to Oscar, and I think he wanted that for himself, whereas she was really not nice to Hakan.
Yeah, you might be right.
They had their secret code, and he didn't ask Oscar for anything in return, like the way she did with Hakan.
So let's talk about one of the other kind of disturbing things in the book. So Oscar's situation at school and the bullying situation. So it's in the book, I felt the volume on the bullying was turned way up, and the kids were much crueler to Oscar in the book than they were in the movie. So how did you guys feel about the bullying thing? The way it was portrayed in the book.
I preferred the book, definitely. I mean, these are boys that knock out one of the teachers and, threaten to, take out one of his eyes. And, the bullying's got to be strong enough to terrify a kid into wetting himself, and, enough that he has dreams about stabbing them, and, goes out with knives and fantasizes killing them. I just didn't think it, really matched that in the movie at all.
Yeah, but it's so hard to get it right in a movie, I think. I mean, bullying is very, very hard. But it's true. I mean, I agree with you. In the book, it was a lot more powerful and a lot more scary. So, yeah, the bullying scene were pretty intense in the book, right from the start, I felt.
One of the things that we were talking about when we were watching the movies is how in the book they were bullying him by calling him a little pig because he was a bit chunkier in the book, and both the movies kind of portrayed him as, you know, a skinny little scrawny kid. But as far as the actual bullying goes, I thought it was pretty intense. The one thing that really stuck out to me is how he was so ashamed of being bullied and everything that he wouldn't tell anybody, and then he went to the extent of making the pee ball to keep himself from peeing himself. That's just like, whoa, I can't even imagine the thought of having to do that. It was definitely more extreme than anything that was in the movie.
Yeah. I would say I wasn't really happy with the movie change of not making him like chubby. Like, I liked that in the book that he was kind of like the chubby kid, and that he like ate his feelings, and where he would get upset and then he would go steal candy from the store to make himself feel better and eat it all and like come up with a plan and eat it all. I thought that gave him a lot of character, and it like kind of showed the way he was venting, dealing with his issues from bullying. I don't know. I thought that worked really well in the book, and I was a little disappointed that they sort of removed those aspects of Oscar's character in the movie.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Ellie in the movie, I think they've done it right, especially in the original movie, the one we saw tonight. I was very impressed with the actress who played Ellie. But as far as Oscar, I thought his character in both movies, it was very different. It wasn't very likable compared to the book, because in the book you really feel sorry for the kid, but in the movies, I mean, not really. So yeah, I really wish they stayed with the book, and they picked a kid that is chubby, and you know, that would have made sense, I think.
He just feels less rounded in the movies, like just less developed, and you know, less that I can relate to.
Oh, by the way, I'm taking a look at the chat. So sometimes if we have questions, can I just?
Yeah, you can just break in and let us know the question.
There is one from Gabriel. You know, he's from wait, he's from Brazil. Do you know him, Gabriel? He's on the group.
Mm-hmm.
And so his question is, so I'm halfway through the book and I'm thinking to drop it. Should I keep reading it? He's been really struggling with the book.
Oh, so, well, I guess that depends on why you want to drop it. It does get a little bit slow in the middle. Like, it picks up again at the end. It does get kind of slow in the middle, and I'm not totally sure why. Like, when the author is introducing a lot of the characters from the Chinese restaurant, and you're not really sure where their plot is going, that part is kind of slow in the middle. But then towards the end, when Oscar's plotline starts to build a lot more tension, I thought the book got a lot more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Like the sections that we got for week 2 and week 3, they were pretty slow, and I wasn't interested, and I still don't remember all of the Chinese restaurants' characters' names and stuff. But yeah, it does pick up at the end, and although I'm a bit disappointed with the book, I'm really glad that I stuck with it and carried on right to the end.
For me, I didn't really think about it as sections wise because I read it in like 2 days, and I didn't really think about like which part of the books were slow or anything. But I definitely would recommend sticking through until the complete end of Hakan's storyline and his scene with Tommy, because that was my favorite part in the book. It stuck in my mind, and it was really creepy. And
I hated that scene.
I loved that scene. It was like, oh my gosh, I could just picture it, him with a little statue just, beating Hakan like to literally just ooze on the ground, and he's just like still twitching. I can see that, and that makes me so happy because I hated that character so much.
Yeah, no, I did. For me, that scene was really the moment where my rating almost dropped to 3 stars, from 3 stars to 2 stars. I think the book really lost credibility for me at that point when Hakan comes back. Not so much the beating down part, but the one before. the erection part, that was the, oh God. I was just like, oh my God, am I really reading this? Like, seriously, I had to read it twice because I just couldn't believe it was happening. I was like, no way, no way.
Although I thought that part with the erection was kind of funny in ways,
Hmm.
I like when I was reading it, I was like completely disturbed by it. Like just the thought of him, acid, covering his face. I believe he was still in his
Yeah,
the
and his
the
rope.
smock, the hospital robe,
Yeah.
and just the imagining him running, through the snow and then getting to the apartment building, just in this hospital robe with his ass hanging out, and just just it was so funny but so disturbing the fact that he was gonna go get what he was promised pretty much, and I don't know, like it was a mixture for me. Like I didn't like that. I thought it was a bit cheesy, but then again, I thought that it added a little bit to the disturbing factor for me. And that scene is actually, well, that whole sequence of scenes from the the hospital to him and Tommy, that is the reason I gave it a 3.5 instead of a 3 because of that section of book. So.
Yeah, so I guess maybe we should talk about how we all rated the book. I think we all rated the book between 3 and 4 stars, right? Pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gave it 3 stars, but it was close to a 2 stars. I was somewhere in between, but I felt if I gave it 2 stars, it would be a little bit too harsh. Because I did like it. It wasn't a bad book, but it wasn't just, it was a little bit disappointing. I was expecting more from it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a light 3 stars.
So I guess for me, I gave it 3 stars as well. I guess for me it was more, I mean, I know the point of the book is to be disturbing, but there is definitely a point for me where it got to be just too much. Like, I don't know, it was a little bit over the top, I think, in terms of how disturbing it was towards the end. Like I think the author did a very good job of building tension, and he wrote it well as for a book, but it just became really unbelievable, I think, at the end. And I don't know. I felt like he could have cut back a little bit on the complexity and made the story flow just a little bit better. Some of the characters, well, all the characters served purposes. They were kind of difficult to. There were just a lot of point of view characters. It was a little bit difficult, and I think he could have been a little bit more restrained with the plot. And the cat is playing behind me.
With the characters, the fact that there were so many characters and that a lot of the book seemed kind of unnecessary to me, that's one of the reasons that I didn't like it as much as I could have. I think the thing that pushed me over the edge and kind of made me realize that I just did switching perspectives is the chapter where you are literally reading from the perspective of a squirrel. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Do we really need to read this?
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. What was that? That was so weird.
That was right after Hakan got out of the hospital, and the squirrel was watching Hakan bury himself during the daytime so that
I didn't get that part. That was just, I don't know.
It was like, why? Like, what's the point of it?
It was trying to be, I don't know, something that it's not. It was trying to be stylish or something. I don't know. But for me, really, that was the issue with the book, is that I had the feeling that it didn't know exactly what it wanted to be. Like, I felt like the writer had so many ideas, and he wanted to do something a little bit new and different for the horror genre. But he wasn't quite sure which way to go, and he didn't want to commit to one way. So it was like a schizophrenic book a little bit for me.
Yeah, I felt like, I felt the beginning was just so promising, and, like, Mindy, you were saying about how, Oscar was quite creepy, and I thought his storyline was gonna go in a completely different direction, and, he might go out murdering people or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought Oscar's storyline was gonna go someplace totally different as well.
Like that. And then the middle was just so long and drawn out, and by the time we got to the end, I felt like, oh, is that all we're gonna get? Is that all gonna get of Oscar and Ellie? So yeah, I couldn't really give it more than 3 stars. I was just a bit disappointed by the time we got to the end. It just really degenerated quite quickly for me, storyline. And yeah, like all those characters, the chopping and changing between them, it confused me so much that I was like looking back through the books trying to figure out who was who, and then I just gave up and thought, to hell with it. It doesn't matter. I don't need to know who these people are.
I think that the group of drunks pretty much, I could have done away with pretty much all of them. The only ones that I really think contributed anything to the book were Virginia, because of her change. I actually enjoyed reading Virginia's change, and how particularly the scene where she's in her house and she's hiding in the closet because it's so bright everywhere else, and she's wrapped up in the blanket. And the part where she realizes that she hasn't been breathing, that's why she's not hot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of cool, and I like that. But as far as the other drunks, I could have really done away with them. They didn't really serve any purpose for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Virginia, I wasn't sure about her at first when she turned into a vampire, but I liked how it was done after. Although it was a little bit too long, like the part when she's at the supermarket again, I could have done without it, and I'm glad that they cut it in the movie. It's not there, so I like they kept it short, but it was still powerful in the movie. So yeah, I liked her character. I wasn't sure about it at first, but it was cool.
I was also sorry, go ahead.
I thought we spent some time on Virginia that maybe she was going to become like a mother figure to replace Hakan, and
I thought about that too. Yeah, I thought they would team up, like interview with the vampire kind of thing.
Did anybody else wonder about how Virginia was drinking her own blood? Does it run out? Like, is that something, like, if she was drinking her own blood, would she not have any more to a point where she would have to start killing people? Because if that's as simple as it goes, why doesn't Ellie just drink her own blood? I don't know. It wasn't explained enough for me. I'm assuming that it would run out, but she was healing, like her wounds were healing and everything. So.
Yeah, actually, I thought that was kind of an interesting part about with the vampires is that we don't 100% find out how they work, and like even Ellie, who's presumably been a vampire for a few hundred years, doesn't totally know how it works. Like, she doesn't totally know what's wrong with her. I did think when he did give explanation, though, it was a little bit odd. Like, I didn't really like the explanations that he gave. I think I would have liked it if he left it even more vague, personally, and just been like, yeah, we don't know. Just happens.
We have another question. It's from Yaya.
Mm-hmm.
Yaya, she was watching the movie with us. The first question she has, it's anyone have an opinion on why Ellie was drawn to Oscar? Do you know why?
I think just because, like, she's still a child in her mind. Like, even though she's lived a long time, she still is a child in her mind, and she hasn't grown up. And so I think she was just attracted to having another child as a friend. That's what I thought it was, just simple as that.
Like that she needed to, just be a kid again and, just express that part of herself, and she became more, Ellie being with Oscar and playing the kids.
Yeah.
Also, she may kind of feel a little bit lonely because although she does have Hakan, he has his ulterior motives as to why he's there, and also he goes out and gets blood during the night, so she's there by herself. So maybe she was just lonely.
Yeah, and they're both outcasts in their own way as well. But, like, she's got no one else to relate to, really. She's like, one of very few vampires that she knows of, and he's, being bullied at school and hasn't really got anyone else. Even his friends don't really stick up for him or want to hang out with him when they see the bullies approaching. So there's two lonely souls that are drawn to each other.
Was there another question, or?
I'm checking right now, sorry.
Okay. So another thing I kind of wanted to talk about was maybe just like vampires in general and how we think this relates in with the vampire genre. So looking at the publication date, this would have been published, I think, just about the same time as Twilight. So I was kind of thinking about how this may have been a little bit of a reaction to that, and how, like, over time vampires have kind of become gone from being monsters to being more of like an idealized fantasy object, and how this was sort of a reaction to that and trying to make them monsters again and kind of gross people out. How did you guys feel about how this related to, I guess, the rest of the vampire genre and how the vampires existed?
Well, they definitely weren't sexy or sparkly, so I guess that's a given. I quite liked it. I always like I've mentioned, darker and more gory and gruesome aspects of any kind of topic. So vampires are definitely something that I'm interested in. I do like True Blood, and this is not anything like that. This is definitely on the more original side of vampires. With Nosferatu, he was not something that you look at. He was scary. I quite liked the part where you'd have to be invited in, because that's something that stems back quite a ways. And the scene where she does go into the house and starts bleeding, I thought that was kind of cool too. Let's see what else. Anyway, I just liked it. I thought that it was well done. In the movie, Estelle had mentioned that she looked like she was older at one point when she was about to feed. I saw that in a different place than she did, but it reminded me of this. I guess it's a urban legend or I can't remember what the word like. Anyway, in Brazil, when I grew up there, I lived up north, and there is a folklore. That's folklore about this old woman who would come called the Machita Preta, and she reminded me of an image that I saw of the Machita Preta once when I was younger, and it kind of creeped me out a little bit. But I thought it was cool. I really enjoyed how they did the vampires in this book and in the movies.
Yeah, I like that too. Like in the book, I noticed there were some small, like hints to the original vampire mystique and the legend and things like that. Like you had to invite them inside for them to come in and things like that. I can't remember. I was checking in my books because I remember I took some notes, but I don't really remember which one, so I'm sorry. But I like that it was kind of subtle, but it was there, and it made it very like like a horror novel. Like it wasn't just a love story about kids. And yeah, I like the horror part in that. I thought it was kind of almost gothic, classical horror style. I thought it was a nice blend, and it was modern at the same time, so I enjoyed that. And I can't really compare it to Twilight because I haven't read Twilight.
Neither
so I don't know. I can't say any. You have? Good. You can talk to us about Twilight.
No, I haven't. I've never read it.
Oh, you haven't? Oh,
Never.
okay.
I haven't joined the
Twilight. Mindy.
What? I'm sorry. I'm reading. I was looking at all of my tabs. Yeah, I've read the first 3 books in Twilight because my sister really wanted me to read them. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not what this is. Okay. I like Twilight is its own thing, and I'm not gonna bash people that like it, and I'm not gonna say that I like it because I don't. But I think that with vampires, you're either gonna get the mushy-gushy love story side, or you're gonna get the awesome, gruesome, actual vampire. Well, not that vampires are real, or are they? But just the cool stuff, which is what I like.
One of the things that I liked in the story was that when Virginia turns, she talks about how she can feel like a second brain growing in her heart, and I like that as an explanation of like why you stab vampires in the heart. It's because they've got this other brain that controls them. And I really liked getting to learn, little bits like that, and I appreciate, not having any more sexy vampires. A bit sexy vampires out at the moment. I love True Blood too, but I don't think I could have, read another sexy vampire story.
Yes. So another theme that I noticed in the book, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, was all of the kids that we get the perspective of, all the male kids that we get the perspective of, they're all missing fathers. Like, they all lack a father figure, and then for Ellie, Hakan is obviously her father figure, but he's pretty messed up. And I don't know, I was really not sure what the author was trying to get at there with the missing father figures, and it was kind of so I wanted to talk about it with you guys, because I'm not really sure, like, it was so prevalent that I feel like it had to be intentional, but I'm not sure what he was going for, really, like, why. So Oscar's dad is an alcoholic, and his parents are divorced, and we don't really see his father. One of the bullies, one of the bullies is Jimmy or Johnny or something like that.
Jimmy and Johnny, his brother. I think.
And their dad is just, like, out of the picture, and then Tommy is the other character who we get, and his dad is also dead. And so, like, what did you guys think about that? What do you think he was trying to say? Because I'm not really sure what he was trying to say with that.
I don't know. I'm not sure either. I did like the bit with Oscar and his dad. I really liked their relationship. I mean, even though it was a really damaged relationship, I liked how it was introduced, and I liked that it was there a little bit, but not too much. But it really gave another dimension to Oscar. Like, that's the moment where I started to really care for him. It's when he went to visit his dad. But as for the other characters, like the Jimmy, Johnny guys, and Tommy character, I didn't really care for Tommy character at all. So I don't know what was the point here. I didn't really get that. I don't know.
Mm. Well, go ahead.
You go. I was just going to say that the mothers don't all, they don't seem particularly strong either. They're pretty weak characters that, seem to need to rely on other people. It just seems, like, is it Tommy's mother? She seems to be, she needs to have, I can't remember the police guy's name now. Is it Stefan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stefan, yeah.
Yeah, like, she can see, this glimmer of perhaps violence in his nature, but she's willing to perhaps overlook that. Because maybe she needs, a partner in her life and a father for Tommy. The women didn't impress me either.
That's what I was going to say, too, that especially with Oscar's mom, I kind of felt like she really wasn't there a whole lot. She probably had a job that she was attending to. So even though she does in the book and in the movies say, can you come back, stay in the house, or there's a murderer on the loose, don't do stupid things. She wasn't there to check up on him a lot, and especially with troubled youth, you don't have a strong parental figure, it can escalate quickly, and it definitely affects whether or not you have a father or a mother. And fathers with boys, you can kind of teach them a little bit about what it is to be a man, and if you don't have that, it can be troublesome.
I guess I hadn't really thought about how the mothers were also really absent. Maybe he was just trying to say that if you, like, leave kids alone, they'll just descend into, like, Lord of the Flies style of violence.
They'll go native on you.
Yeah, I think it was more towards the parents, not just the father, maybe. Could be.
Yeah, but good question. I never thought about the parents at all. Who disturbed by, the crazy kids.
But I really like that in the original movie, I really like the scene with Oscar and his dad. I like that they kept it, because in the remake it was not there at all. I think there was just a scene when Oscar's mom was talking with the dad on the phone, and that was pretty much it. So I really like that in the original movie they kept that scene, and it was a good one. And that dad was really good looking.
Yeah, not a lot.
He was pretty handsome.
All right, so I don't know. Do we want to talk about, like, spoilers? Do we want to talk about the end, or do you guys want to just avoid that?
Let's do this. Yeah, let's talk about the spoilers.
Okay, so we are going to talk about spoilers towards the end of the book. So if you don't want to hear about those, probably click away right now. So I guess one of the things I wanted to talk about. So in the in the book, when we get Ellie's backstory, we find out that she is not a girl. And so I was curious how people felt about that. I did not hugely like that twist. I just didn't really feel like it was necessary to go there and do that. Like, it just didn't really seem to add anything to me. But I don't know, how did you guys feel about it?
I didn't think it was necessary either. I think it was mostly there just for shock value. You kind of learn through her, back or flashbacks or whatever that her or his was kind of snipped off. But it seemed like it was more there for shock value than anything else. I didn't think that it made any difference to the story. Oscar didn't seem like he really cared, and neither did Hato. I don't know. It didn't seem worth adding.
I didn't see it coming, that's for sure.
Did I?
No, I didn't. I don't know. Yeah, I just didn't see it coming. It was a surprise for me. But yeah, I didn't understand the whole point of the castration. Did I miss something? Is there a purpose?
I don't know. For me too, the flashback scenes, I wasn't really getting. I mean, I wasn't getting what they were about. I mean, not really. Like, for me, it was just, I don't know. It was weird. It was just not enough to really understand what was going on, and it was just a little too much. Like, it was just poorly done, I think, and mostly for me it was because of the writing. Like, suddenly the writing became kind of cheesy in those parts, the flashback parts. I just almost skipped them, to be honest, because I was like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I wanted backstory, but that wasn't fulfilling at all. It didn't tell me enough, and it gave me, there are more questions than answers with the more backstory.
Yes. And so another part towards the end, the bullying with Oscar escalates a lot more. So in the book, the bullying situation with Oscar escalates a lot more than what happens in the movie. And I kind of wanted to talk about that. So I found that part sort of unbelievable. Like kids can be mean and everything, but they generally stop short of trying to murder each other. Like, it really escalates towards the end of Oscar's story, his bullying situation with the other kids. The pool scene obviously is the same, but in the book, Oscar also sets the kids' desks on fire and does some other crazy stuff.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he destroys the two bullies. The one that's his bully and then his bully's brother get really upset because he burned the desk, and in his desk was the only photo album that they had that was their father's. And I can kind of agree with Nicole saying that it was a little too far, and they went a little out of their way to try to murder this kid. But I don't know. I can kind of also think that it's understandable. Like, if you're already kind of messed up and the only thing that you have to hold on to from these pictures that your dad gave you, and it got destroyed, and you want to blame somebody, and you're gonna make somebody pay for that. So I can kind of get it. I think they did take it way too far, but that's what the book just did. So
yeah.
Yeah, I felt it was a bit too much with once he started setting the school on fire, I stopped believing in the story. And the whole pool scene when they knock out the teacher, that also just went a bit too far. I wasn't convinced that they would actually, that kids would actually do that.
So that's a difference from the movie. In the movie, they just get rid of the teacher. In the book, they actually lure him away and then knock him out with drugs. Or no, with a sock filled with something heavy.
Money in the sock.
That's a little bit far. I feel like most kids would stop short of actual physical violence. Maybe not against other kids, but definitely against adults and people who have authority over you. Like that, it was. I don't know. I just didn't really buy into that. It was surprisingly less believable than vampires.
Yeah, I mean, especially with that teacher, he was quite a badass. So, I mean, he was an intimidating teacher, so it was a little bit hard to believe it's true. For me, I have to say the ending, I was not really feeling the book anymore, so I kind of a little bit skimmed through. So there are things that I don't remember that much. I just know that I didn't like the ending. The pool scene at the end was just, yeah.
Did we talk about the pool scene toward the beginning?
No, and that's the one I like the most. We should talk about
Oh yeah,
that.
I forgot about that.
That's a good one.
Backing up
Say that in the
to
movie.
yes, Hakan's second attempt at murdering someone. Let's back up to there.
That was a really, really good scene, and I think it was the last chapter before the end of section 1 for those who were on schedule. So not Mindy, but for us it was at the end of the first section. So it was really, really intense. I remember that scene was really, I don't know, it really freaked me out because I could so picture it in my mind, the way it was described, the acid thing. Oh my god, it was awesome. It was really good. And I just couldn't wait to read more, and then suddenly it became a little bit boring.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that pool scene was really good, and I was definitely disappointed with both movies and how it was portrayed in the movies, but it was really good in the book. It was really creepy and just gross and spine-tingly.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension built in that scene up until the point where he pours the acid over himself, and that just went so quickly in the movie. And I wasn't really convinced that he needed to use the acid in the movie at all. I felt like escaped somehow. But yeah, it was written really well in the book.
Yeah, in the book he definitely backs himself into a corner so he can't escape.
Yeah, in the book, I could just I can remember reading that part, and I was sitting up in bed reading that, and I usually lie down to read, and when I'm sitting up and oh my gosh, this is actually happening, Alan's like, what you reading? But I remember sitting up and reading that part, and I could just feel the tension, and I could imagine it and see things happening scene per scene, or I could visually see it like I was watching a movie, and that's not something I do a whole lot. Unless the description's really good, but I could just see this happening, and it felt a lot more rushed and a lot more intense in the book than it did in the movie, especially the Swedish movie, which actually kind of included that. It's they didn't even see him at first when they walked in to save the guy, and it really was disappointing because I saw that he was going to do it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and Estelle was like, yay, we're going to see the pool scene, and then it was let down.
Yeah.
I really didn't like what they did in the remake with the car and everything. I usually like urban legend stuff, there's somebody in the back of your car and everything, but it could have been done so much better, and that just disappointed me.
Yeah. It's funny that the one scene that is the most visual in the book, they really screw it up in the movie, both of them. It's a shame. But yeah, the remake one was really, really, really bad. I mean, that scene was just terrible. So what about the cat scene? You guys liked it?
I think we were being sarcastic.
I mean, it was so bad, it was good. Those cats were the worst CGI. It was funny. I also really, that scene in the movie when Hakan is killing the first kid, and he's in that woods, which is not hiding anything. The trees are super spaced out and open, and then that dog just comes and sits by him. I thought that was really funny. It was just what? Where's the person associated with this dog? Because if they're within a mile, they should be able to see him right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
With the original movie, though, I do want to say that it was so beautiful, the scenery and everything, especially with all the snow. And in that scene with the dog and him, trying to kill the guy, or killing the guy, just walking through the forest and seeing all the birch trees covered in snow, I thought that was really pretty.
Yeah, it was. That movie was good looking. Sorry, go on, Miranda.
So where was it? Because I haven't seen the remake. So where was it? It wasn't set in Sweden.
It's set in New Mexico, United States.
Okay.
It was snowy, but it was not. I thought that the remake was visually pleasing at most points, except for the CGI. But it did not have the feel of the authenticity that it did in Sweden. So
I think the remake was good looking because it was just really, really dark. Like you couldn't see anything pretty much. It was always just dark, dark, dark. Whereas the Swedish movie, there was a lot of white. It was just a lot more. I don't know the word, but it was just more clean, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that a lot. It was just creepier for sure.
I guess as long as we're talking about the movies. I liked both movies, but I did like the Swedish one a little bit better, and I think the Swedish one is a better book-to-movie adaptation. The American one, it's pretty clear that the source material is more so the Swedish movie than the book. Like, it's more, the movies are more like each other.
Read the book.
I still enjoyed both of them as well, but I definitely enjoyed the Swedish one a lot more for what it was. I'm pretty good at separating, the book from the movie, so I still was able to enjoy the movie without having to pick at it and say, well, that wasn't like the book, or that wasn't like the book. The only changes that were in the remake that kind of bothered me were the small ones, like why change the names? I mean, in the American one, the names are Abby and Owen instead of Oscar and Eli. Like, why change that? And I don't know.
Did they change the name of Hakan? I didn't notice that.
They didn't give him the name in the credits. I actually looked. It was listed as father figure or something, which I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, and the blood, the bathtub. There's supposed to be blood in there, and that would have been so cool. But no.
I wanted to see her emerge from the blood. That would have been a really cool scene.
Yeah.
The blanket's just too soft and sloppy.
But maybe they didn't want to put a kid in a bath of blood, even if it's fake blood. Maybe they felt bad about it. Because I wonder, how old were the actors? Do you know? Do you think they were the same with the characters, like 11, 12 or something?
I would assume they were kids, like they looked like kids, so they were probably under, 14,
Yeah. I don't know who's the girl who played Ellie in the Swedish one, but she was really, really good.
Yeah, she was.
She looked the part. She sounded the part. Her voice was really great.
I really liked the way they made her eyes look in the Swedish one too. They seemed like the irises were really big. I don't know if that's her actual eyes. I doubt that is because they looked really, really awesome.
So let's bring it back to the book. Any other thoughts on the book that you guys wanted to get out? So what were some of your favorite parts from the book? Let's go there. I think my favorite was probably the pool scene, even though it's gross and disgusting and terrible.
The first pool scene?
Yeah, the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one. I really like the Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube, when they meet. And I like that part. It was a nice scene. That was my favorite scene of Ellie and Oscar.
I like the Rubik's Cube too. Rubik's Cubes are cool. And I liked how he had a knockoff Rubik's Cube and then he was like, oh, I gotta get a real one.
Suddenly it's romantic again.
Yeah, I think the cool scene for me, because it's just got that, great shock value and it really built the tension there, and it's the most memorable for me.
I like the pool scene too, but I think still my favorite was Tommy and Hakan at the very end there for Hakan, and I just really like that for some reason. It's just so much gore, and I like gore. I watch so many horrible horror movies because of the gore. But if it's not that, then I really liked Virginia. How she turns and everything. I really liked how that was done.
Did you think with Tommy and Hakan's scene in the beginning, that all began, that it might have been the other way around and that Tommy might have died?
Yeah, I expected Tommy to die, especially after what he did at the church with the holy water. I'm like, well, you know, he messed with God, he's gonna die, because that's how it is in horror movies. You know, if you're having sex in the beginning of a horror movie, you're gonna die because it's evil. So I definitely expected Tommy to die in that situation, but I'm glad that he didn't, and I'm glad that he pwned Hakan's ass, because that was just so cool.
Any other scenes?
I think they're just like little tiny moments, like when Hakan's asking Ellie, you know, does she love him, and he says, you know, like I love you in, you know, in some ways, and he's like, no, it's either you love someone or you don't, and then she looks at him and, well, I'll have to think about it, and you know, that just makes me laugh.
Yeah, I noted that one too. That was really cold.
Yeah.
Actually, I liked the dialogue between Hakan and Ellie, so that dialogue was written a little bit differently, so there's not any like speaker tags, so sometimes you're not totally sure who's talking. And I liked their dialogue, and I kind of liked that particular artistic choice. I feel like sometimes the author made some like stylistic choices with his writing that I wasn't super happy with, but that one I actually liked. So I liked the way the dialogue between Hakan and Ellie was written up.
Yeah, I like those parts too. What did you think of the writing in general? Did you like it? Because I had issues with it.
Yeah, I guess we were kind of talking about this on Twitter yesterday. I don't know, I felt like, I'm not sure if it's an issue with the translation where the translator simplified the language a little bit, or if it was actually written that way, but I felt like the language was pretty basic. Like, I felt like the writing was pretty basic and not very interesting in and of itself, and like I said, I'm not sure if that's something where in Swedish it was more interesting and the translator just decided that in order to keep the story flowing and to keep things easy to understand to kind of simplify the language, or if that's the way the writer wrote it. It was, I felt the writing could have been better, I guess.
I didn't really have any problems with the writing itself. It was more the format. I really did not like the format with the, you know, individual perspectives, with the switching perspectives without any kind of, because sometimes you would read a new chat or a new section and you would have to read like a page and a half before you even realized who you were reading, and that kind of bothered me. The writing, like I said, it wasn't great, but it didn't bother me. I actually think I liked a couple of the things that he wrote. One thing that I remember in particular at the very beginning, there was a quote. I can't. Let me look and see if I can find it really quick. It was something about. I have all my little tabs on here. It says, "You were beyond the grasp of the mysteries of the past. There wasn't even a church. 9,000 inhabitants, but no church." And I thought that kind of stuck out as like, oh, this is going to be awesome because, you know, in all of these people, there's not really religion. There's no God to look to whenever you're in crises. So when I read that, I'm like, this is going to be awesome, and this is going to be full of just hopelessness. So the writing was okay. There was a couple of good quotes, but it was just more the format for me that kind of let me down.
I agree with you both. Yeah, I didn't really like the switching perspective very much, and I felt it was really easy to read. I could have read it all in one go. I felt like it was so simple to read, and it almost would be like a good beach read apart from all the gross bits. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really have too much of a problem with it. It wasn't. I don't think it was set up to be like a complex novel, and I guess it really suited, you know, the style of the novel.
Yeah, I think I had issues with the format too. Like Mindy said, the jumping from one character to another. And I really didn't like that. Sometimes it would happen right in the middle of a scene. We would have just a little bit, and then we switch to another character. You read something that is completely different, and then you go back to that original scene, and it follows. And for me, it was really taking me out of the action. And on the group, I was saying that sometimes there were parts that I had to read again. Like, I had to read them twice because when I was reading, I just didn't picture them at all because I was somewhere else in the story. I wasn't ready for that. So really, for me, the format really took me out of the book, out of the story, and out of the characters, especially in the second half when it went really, really crazy jumping.
Yeah, it was really jarring, but I felt like it read like a film. Like it would, those the cut between the scenes would look really good in a movie. And
Yeah,
I
no,
wonder maybe he was thinking like that when he was writing it.
I agree with you. I feel like he wrote it more like a movie almost than like a book. Like it was very cinematic in that way, in that you were getting a lot of short scenes and you were not following a character for very long.
Mm-hmm. Have you read any of his other stuff, other books? Because I saw that he has some other books, like on the back of my copy. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 other novels. So I was wondering if you've heard of them, planning to read them, or something like that.
I've heard of one of his other books. I don't really plan on reading anything else by him, I don't think.
No.
I think one of his books was at the secondhand bookstore when I went last time, but it was like $8, so I didn't pick it up. But I think that he has a series about zombies too. At least I think that's what I read on the back of the book, that it was about zombies. I think somebody on the group said that there is a short story that goes along with Let the Right One In. I'm not sure if I read that wrong or something, because I haven't really been keeping up with it.
I think it's there, but I didn't check that one.
I haven't checked it out. I may, but it's not like on the top of my priority list. Mm-hmm. And unless I have the opportunity to pick up one of his books for super cheap, because I don't really pay money for books all the time, and my library doesn't have anything else by him. So I'm not in a hurry, and if it happens, it's probably not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not planning to read his other stuff either.
No, I don't. Yeah, it wasn't impressive enough to. It doesn't make me want to pick up his other books.
All right. So we've been going for about an hour now, so you guys want to wrap it up. So who would you recommend this book to? I would recommend it to people who want to be grossed out. Like, it's definitely got some gross scenes in there. And I think it's pretty effective as a horror novel overall, despite having a couple of issues with the jumping in perspective and things that I think we all agree on.
I think you could read it quite quickly. If you wanted to read it in one go, I think it's like, you read it in one go, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a lot better for me than it was for a bunch of other people, because I read it in like it was 2 days, so 2 sittings, and I think I enjoyed it a little bit more because I read it so quickly and it didn't have time to lull in the middle for me.
Yeah, I think I'll be benefited from reading it in one go, definitely. Yeah. So I think if you wanted to read something, something quickly, and yeah, have that shock value, yeah, go for this.
Yeah, or a good vampire story, something a little bit different. And yeah, I would recommend it to any horror fan, but not just horror fan. I think it's a book that would work with people who are into other stuff, because there's a lot of psychology in that book. I mean, there's a lot of really gross moments, really disturbing and violent moments, but I felt that there's also a lot about those characters and Ellie and Oscar. So I think it would work with someone who's not into horror. Like, I know on the group some people who read the book with us this month, they said like they are not used to reading a horror novel, but they picked it up and they read till the end and they enjoyed it. So yeah, I think it would work for pretty much anybody, as long as you're not too squeamish, I think.
Yeah, definitely not if you're squeamish or have any kind of, trigger issues with any kind of pedophilia or just any kind of stuff like that. But I'd probably recommend it to anybody that, is looking for a darker read or something disturbing. It's probably not going to be on my list of books that I'm like, oh, you really need to read this or anything. But if somebody's in the mood to read something dark, I might mention it.
All right. So, yep, that's pretty much it. We'll just wrap it up there. So our book for next month is going to be Murder on the Orient Express, right?
That's I forgot to check that.
Yeah.
I forgot to check the vote. So it's Murder on the Orient Express? That's one win? Oh, good.
I'm pretty sure that's the one that won. It was the one that was winning when I checked it like a couple hours before you closed it. So unless like 2 or 3 more people came and voted for the Pacific Crest Trail one, that's the one that won.
Yeah, the wise one. Wait, let me check just quickly. Oh my god, I should have checked that. I've been busy the whole weekend, so.
Yes. So our theme for August was a book about traveling or traveling without moving. That's what the theme was. Traveling without moving.
Yes. And it's Murder on the Orient Express. We will read that.
And it's Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. So we'll have a hangout again next month, probably towards the end of the month again. And we'll probably do a watch-along for at least, I know there's several versions of like movies or miniseries for Murder on the Orient Express, so we'll probably do at least one watch-along. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check out our Goodreads group, which is where all the details are. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyone else have anything they want to add before we go?
Are we going to do a watch-along or a read-along for Dune?
Yeah.
I want to mention that.
Of course. Of course, I'm waiting for it. I'm excited about it. Yeah, we will do a watch-along for David Lynch's Dune. And maybe if some people are interested, I was thinking about watching the Jodorowsky's Dune. That would be fun, the documentary. Because it's
I want to watch that.
Really good one. It's a great movie. And then we will do a Hangout live show. I think it will be during the first weekend of August. And I haven't checked yet who wants to join, so I will let you know that later. Depends on who finishes the book.
Alright.
Because I know some people are giving up on it.
Alright, so I think that's it. So we'll see you guys next month or for the Dune Hangout, depending on how things go. So
thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you for watching.